and advocates for fatty acid balance. And I have some updates, from our congressman's office, our representatives, Marcia Fudge and Senator Sharon Brown are on the agriculture committees of the U.S. House and Senate, and since the USDA dietary guidelines for 2015 has some of this like healthy information about recommendations for omega-3s or their efficacy in staving off mental illnesses, disorders, that sort of thing, I've asked their offices to research if they could find, because this is a big document, these dietary guidelines, but we believe this would be some of the most scientific information to inform appropriate community responses where this nutritional information can be furnished, included in recommendations to people in recovery and with mental illness. And I haven't heard back if their offices can look through this the science, but my Action Network, we have a small amount of people who are really interested. People get this kind of information from me and through our work, and so we're hoping to have some help with that, help from the congressmen, and also Representative Tim Ryan is really interested because he's the co-sponsor or sponsor of the Enrich Act to expand nutritional education for doctors. And this would be one area where certainly if the science is indicating this is one of the things that can reduce the need to be prescribing as much for depression and ADHD, if a healthy fat balance can be recommended in conjunction with care. That's one of the things that he's certainly interested in, and his district obviously needs it as much as we all do, And I did want to follow up on Valeria. Welcome back from vacation. I did emailing. I got an email saying you were out of the office for a couple days. So welcome back. I sent you and Dr. Sabet an email last month saying some of our recommendations and how this could be incorporated. So I don't want to take up too much time, but we still have active some active areas where it could really help. Where I stayed in University Hospital's psych ward for 3 days, 72 hours back in May, and this was never mentioned. There was no mention of, there was no healthy encouragement, in that particular clinical setting. There was not mention of how your fat intake or maybe these minerals. There's other indicators, but fat balance being a major one for our brain cell membranes. That this could be, obviously it would be a great, thing art therapy is great. We think, nutritional wellness education is great to have in these environments. And we did, University Hospitals has some commitments to healthy food and sustainable food on their website, but we're trying to, kind of get more transparency, open it up to more scrutiny from, public, that if this is what's being served in the psych wards and people aren't getting, an omega-3 education or bad fats, or how to reduce bad fats or something like that, then, we want to see this kind of leadership come through for people's mental clarity and stability. The over-medicating is sort of one of these obviously issues that is a controversial. Same thing with overfishing. We got active because the USDA and the NPR is putting out promoting salmon and mackerel. So we got active for the plant sources to say, whatever proportion, this could be an ecological thing to have like flax seeds or chia seeds, that sort of thing. And when there's, so we're looking, like My Action Network, we definitely can report back on like what the public is like feels about this, because we're out there like almost like the Hare Krishnas, like trying to hand out vegetarian recipes. We're like out there with our signs and saying, would you like some omega recipes? Here's some of the plant sources, and so we engage, like people are interested. So I mean, it's definitely like, I feel like we're responding to a crisis. It's like a damage control that like people really don't know like that this could be affecting them. And the email articles that I did follow up with, that I said I would send electronic copies, were just that the USDA had reported about it in conjunction with combating depression, and that that is just common, that these other omega researchers called the GOED, that's like an EPA and DHA council, that's saying that 70% of American diets are commonly deficient in omega-3s, just because we're so used to refined grains and just not maybe too much bad fats and not enough good fats. So there's what we're out like saying is, if like some of these flyers or posters or public service announcements or increased messages from like healthy celebrities or doctors or bands, we want anybody to get involved in spreading the word, but if we could even get like 20% of people who like could benefit from it, like decide that they want to take our card. I mean, there's like rates of like, well, how much is that worth? If like some of these people like who would, but just didn't know how, or didn't know that it was important, then this would be a healthy like preventative wellness thing, which we really believe in. And there's also like there's also the most sophisticated omega balance testing happening at the Cleveland Heart Lab, right there on Euclid, and they have a lot of heart health information that they put out. Test this in conjunction with your heart health risks, and we definitely want to like have like good situations where this leadership for testing is being like celebrated in our area too. So there's a lot of good opportunities that can come from like just increased looking at how it can be incorporated. So I'd really like to settle on some courses of action, because we've got people that want to be involved, or we're reaching out to doctors to see like what we should do, or if they can put out our recipes in their waiting rooms and things. So definitely have some more, or if you guys want to help us deal with the congressman's offices and things like that, it would be great fun, enriching time. And also this HIP Cuyahoga, I mean, I just opened up their PDF file of all these health indicators in Cuyahoga, and it seems like great minds at work have compiled kind of like where this can be, which is what we've been saying, like how to promote like healthy fat intake along with promoting produce and things like that we want for our quality of life. So I'm going to keep following up on the leads and hope to keep convening with you guys on these best recommendations we can make. Because we're going to make the recommendations to the mental health service providers. If the USDA isn't, I don't know who's going to, the Surgeon General, there's a lot of players that we kind of want, settling this. Like if it helps with ADHD, like this is, what the doctors can say about it, like that sort of thing. And it could be like, more incorporated. So I appreciate your patience and talking back to me and stuff like that.
Jerry, is there something specific you would like to ask us for?
Okay, let's see. I would like to ask for your help just navigating where this can be incorporated better, with these aftercare settings, if it's a healthy menu. I'd really like you guys to, be promoting like a fat balanced menu in some of these healthcare settings, I think would be great mental health leadership to act on the science and incorporate this as like, one of the indicators that people can be aware of as something that they can watch out for in their lives.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Dr. Fowler, to our planning committee members, and good to see you again, Jeremy. One of the things, kind of where we left off our conversation, because I've had the great pleasure in speaking with Jeremy after an earlier board meeting, is we've involved Dr. Sabat intentionally because it certainly is on my realm to make recommendations to have, for example, this presentation at our brown bag luncheon. I think we need to have a conversation with our chief clinical officer as to how to deliver a message in a way that it's not misinterpreted to do A, B, and C in lieu of medication. And so that kind of was the gray area. And I believe that Dr. Sabat, he certainly has received the emails. We're just waiting for his response.
Excellent, thank you. Bill, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
No, I appreciate Jeremy coming here today, and part of the comments is that the board entertained Congressman Tim Ryan earlier in the week talking about the Mental Health Crisis Act that you mentioned, and this board in the previous board meeting about an hour ago passed a resolution in support of his legislation across the country. So we are trying to gather the momentum, get together to deal with the huge mental health crisis that we have in a whole number of specific areas. Not just one area, but a number of areas that actually you mentioned in your presentation. And I want to let you know that the board passed that resolution to send it on to the full board this month so that we can continue our advocacy in that area.
Send it on to like an Ohio board or the full Adams board? No, is that a Mental Health Crisis Act or the Enrich Act for nutrition education for doctors?
The request was from him for us to support him and the act, and by doing that,
Which act is it? A Mental Health Crisis Act?
it's the 2015 Mental Health Crisis Act that's in Congress right now. And you mentioned it in one of your comments, at least I thought you did. And so we will also support that and let everybody else know that we are supporting that, and hope that we could get other congresspersons that are local to also support, so they can pass legislation to deal more effectively the way that we're dealing with mental health and our crisis.
Okay, great. That's news to me. I will definitely be able to support that because we want to support the Enrich Act that Congressman Ryan has and the Mental Health Act, so I can incorporate that in
You
my...
might also want to include the name Representative Tim Murphy.
Yeah, I misspoke, Mr. Chairman. I misspoke. I said Congressman Ryan. It was Congressman Tim Murphy from Pennsylvania. So Ryan is from Mahoney County, in that area.
Okay, we'll look into both of those.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much.